You know someone like this. Maybe it's you. They don't throw parties. They don't accept gifts. They don't even acknowledge the day they were born. And when you ask why, they shrug, they smile, they say it doesn't matter. But here's what they won't tell you. It matters deeply. Because the refusal to celebrate your own existence isn't about humility. It's not about being low-key or introverted. It's about something far more disturbing. It's about control, about worthiness, about a wound so deep they can't even admit it's there. Let me show you what's really happening. Let's start with the truth no one wants to say out loud. When a person refuses to celebrate their birthday, they are refusing to celebrate themselves. And that refusal didn't come from nowhere. It was taught. Think about it. Children naturally love their birthdays. They count down the days. They imagine the cake, the candles, the moment where they're allowed to exist, loudly, openly, without apology. But somewhere along the way, something changes. For some people, that day becomes uncomfortable, embarrassing, even painful. Why? Because they learned, consciously or unconsciously, that they were not worth celebrating. Let me be clear. This isn't about modesty. Modest people still accept love. They still allow others to acknowledge them. But the person who avoids their birthday entirely is doing something different. They're hiding. In most cases, this pattern begins in childhood, in families where attention was conditional, where love had to be earned, where being seen meant being criticized. Maybe they grew up in a home where birthdays were chaotic, where the celebration wasn't about the child at all, but about appearances, about obligation, about control. Or worse, maybe their birthday was ignored entirely. Year after year, watching other children receive cards, gifts, and affection while their own day passed in silence. That kind of neglect doesn't fade with time. It embeds itself. It plants a quiet belief that grows louder with age. You are not special. You do not deserve to be seen. So they grow up and repeat the pattern. Not because they want to, but because it feels safer than hoping. Safer than risking disappointment. Safer than being vulnerable enough to say, I matter. Here's where it gets darker. Some people don't celebrate their birthday because they don't feel they have permission. Permission to exist joyfully. Think about that. Adults who still feel they need approval to take up emotional space. This often comes from homes where authority controlled not just behavior, but emotion. Where happiness was mocked, excitement was shamed, confidence was labeled arrogance. In those environments, celebration becomes dangerous, because to celebrate yourself is to claim value. And for some parents, that feels like a threat. So the child learns to shrink, to apologize for existing, to make themselves smaller so others can feel bigger. And that child becomes an adult who says, I don't like my birthday, when what they really mean is, I was never allowed to. There's another layer to this. Some people reject their birthday because they reject time itself. Aging, mortality, the undeniable reminder that life is moving forward. For them, a birthday isn't a celebration. It's a reckoning, a reminder of what they haven't done, who they haven't become, how much time they believe they've wasted. So they avoid it. They pretend the day doesn't exist, because acknowledging it would force them to confront parts of themselves they're not ready to face. But avoidance isn't strength. It's fear. Fear of failure. Fear of irrelevance. Fear of looking in the mirror and not recognizing who they've become. Then there's control. Some people don't celebrate their birthday because they need to control how they are perceived. They don't want pity. They don't want forced gestures or obligation-driven affection. They don't want to risk hoping someone remembers and discovering no one did. So they take the choice away. They declare that birthdays don't matter to them. And in doing so, they protect themselves. It's a preemptive strike against rejection, a quiet way of saying, I didn't want it anyway. But the truth is, they did. They still do. They just don't believe they'll receive it. Once you understand the psychology, the patterns become impossible to ignore. People who don't celebrate their birthday often share subtle traits. First, they deflect praise. Compliments make them uncomfortable. Acknowledgement feels foreign. They immediately minimize it, redirect it, dismiss it. Not because they're humble, but because deep down, they don't believe they deserve it. That belief was planted long ago. Second, they celebrate others intensely. They remember every birthday. They go out of their way to make others feel special. But when their own day arrives, they disappear. This isn't generosity, it's displacement. They give to others what they were never allowed to receive themselves. Third, they become invisible, not just on their birthday, but in life. They don't ask for help. They don't express needs. They don't take up space. Being small feels safer than being seen. And eventually, that smallness becomes an identity. Here's what you need to understand. If someone refuses to celebrate their birthday, it's not a quirk. It's not a preference. It's a signal that somewhere along the way, they learned they were not worth celebrating. And that belief doesn't stay confined to one day a year. It shapes how they accept love, how they navigate relationships, how they see themselves. Because if you can't celebrate your own existence, it becomes very hard to believe others truly want you around. So what do you do if you care about someone like this? You don't force it. You don't surprise them. You don't pressure them into celebration. Instead, you show them, quietly and consistently, that they matter. Not just on their birthday. Every day. You see them. You acknowledge them. You let them know their presence has weight. Not out of pity, but because it's true. And here's the hard truth. Some people will never believe they deserve to be celebrated, no matter how much love they're shown, because the wound runs too deep. That journey is theirs alone. You can offer support, presence, and compassion, but you cannot force someone to feel worthy. So the next time someone tells you they don't celebrate their birthday, don't laugh it off. Don't call them humble. Pause. Because what they're really saying is, I don't know how to celebrate myself. And that is one of the quietest, saddest truths a person can carry. If this unsettled you, that's not a bad thing. It means you're paying attention. Leave a comment and share what you've noticed. And if you want more honest explorations of human psychology, subscribe to Mind Enigma. This isn't entertainment. This is awareness. And awareness is where real change begins.